teaching round graduation today. It's a shape that can go into shorter haircuts, which is what we're going to be doing, but also it can be in any type of haircut at all, depending on what it needs. Remembering that graduation is all about building of weight, and this is what we're doing today. We're going to go into a short haircut, but not as super short as maybe you would traditionally do this, just because I know we're supposed to do more haircuts and we have to do the masculine cutting over this. In that sense, I want to be able to show you have some hair to work with. But it's a really standard supportive shape, the round for short haircuts, and then of course being graduated, it's going to create that kind of buildup of weight. So graduation is always, remember when we're doing it, is to help build weight. And if we do put any layers in through the top, it's because we don't want so much built up, so that we're going to remove weight for certain portions. Yes?
Do you have a specific face shape that you would recommend this cut for?
Honestly, I traditionally can use this on many facial shapes. Mostly it's more about how the hair wants to move or why they would want the movement into the haircut. So for example, for short graduation, traditionally I have clients that want the hair around the face to move away from their face. So the round shapes, as we know, moves hair away from the face. And then of course, because it's graduated, we're still gonna get a buildup of it. Now, how high you lift your graduation, which is again is an option, that's one thing we have to always kind of remember. The lower your fingers are, the farther away from the head, you're gonna get a heavier weight line. If you want it flatter, you're going to obviously bring that hair closer up, usually taking it more vertical or a vertical diagonal to be able to create a lighter look. So kind of gives a lot of options, and that's one of the things that I like. So it's not so limited on facial structure as much as what is the option and why am I choosing to do this. So do I need it leaner? I go up more higher, and if I want it heavier, then I go out and lower, more horizontal. So kind of optional. First, we're just going to section out the top of the head. And again, most short haircuts or shorter shapes, as I like to say, the horseshoe shape is pretty good, especially because we are doing a round shape. It supports that round look. So you want to come across the head, across to that parietal ridge, usually right in that recession area. Erica here has a pretty small head, so you actually can go a little bit wider if you want to have more hair left on top, because she is also this kind of slimmer, finer type hair density also. But I wouldn't go way past that parietal ridge area because her head is quite curvy. It could actually look wider. So if she has somebody that has a really, I call it bulbous or very round shaped head, you have to really take that into consideration versus somebody that some people are, it's flat. Their head doesn't arch as much, so taking that consideration of the shape of the head. When you go to the back of the head, obviously you want to find the highest point. You want to rock that down, and right here at that lowest point where the head arches, that's where you want to come back to. You could make it into a diamond point if you had somebody that you really wanted this shape to kind of almost V more towards the back. But if you have, again, somebody that wants it to really to be a true circle, then you could stay with it more round, like more of a true horseshoe. So kind of showing you guys, I went into more of a V point just to kind of create something slightly different. I also feel like this is a little bit more what's happening in fashion, not so circle. You know, it's like people want it to go down, create the volume here. This allows you to have that kind of option and that shape choice. So that way I have hair for later to deal with, and depending on what shape we want to truly create. And I just want to be sure these points here are the same. So recession to recession, over the parietal ridge, going down to that point where I can know that I can build weight and still have enough hair, especially knowing that in this portion of her head, that kind of has a lot of colics and growth patterns. So we want to be sure we also have enough hair in that upper area and that it's not being built into your graduation. So I want to be sure also, that's another reason for having more hair up here, is to be sure that you have that hair to weigh down any colics later that you might want. You may want to expose, because again, for creativity purposes, if people really want it spiky and want it standing up, it could be very useful. But if you don't, you have it again pinned away. So then I'm going to take this and divide it just purely in half, just for kind of symmetry purposes, because I don't want this to be asymmetrical. So I do want to just divide it in half. So that's kind of where we're going. And then from that point, I'm going to take, and because again, we're thinking about, oh, I want to show this the best way. So you guys can see it. This haircut is going to actually start in the front, moving back. So I can just clip one whole side right now away and not worry about it. So it's really like 3 panels in a way. It's like 1, 2, 3 this way, just for simplicity purposes. But now that I'm going to start in this side, I leave that out. And then where I want to divide it, again, knowing that I'm going to start in front with the haircut, moving towards the back, for control purposes, right behind the ear. But a lot of people go vertically. The reason that I slightly take that diagonal forward action, even though technically we are going to be moving this way, because hair flows better and blends in a diagonal. So that's why we're going to take this parting slightly diagonal behind the ear. So no matter whether it goes this way or it went that way, that diagonal parting will allow the fluidity to move better instead of a true vertical where the hair sometimes almost like collides like a wall, like a hard corner. So taking it slightly diagonal will help make that hair move like a real head shape, allows it to move. When I'm coming from here to here, like let's just say my first section would be this. If you kind of see, it almost turns into a more triangular type shape. So it then again allows a natural movement, and then it almost pivots, and then the movement here will also flow back this way. So really, it does flow that way. But again, most heads, without realizing it, our head divides right there naturally. And again, we have not flat lines. We are on a, I would say our head shape is round with flat spots. So diagonal partings are always going to be asked for fluidity and balance. So we have all of these. I'm just taking my extra, and then I'm going to take this out of the way for just a moment. So I have that. So this will be my first panel. But before we go in and actually cut it and start parting it out perfectly, we have a lot of hair here. So to make it easier, and again, on a true short haircut, we're probably going to cut over the ears. In this situation, because again, we're going to do another cut for the future, I'm going to leave it a little like closer to the earlobe length, just so that we have hair to move for the next cut for the future. Also, I will honestly say mannequin hair, really short over the ears, will poke straight out. So this also helps you kind of visually lay flatter because we are working on stitched in mannequins. So first and foremost, I'm going to come in. Usually I always like a 2-inch kind of guide across that head just to get the length cut. So we're just doing the perimeter first. So I'm going to come in, and what I always like to say is you can see the shape of the ear. So I know from here forward, I'm going to want that angle, if you want it angular, to cut a slight diagonal here. And then this can be a little bit more straight across. So that way you get that movement that will go here, or if you want it to go here, it will move better. Just because again, the hairline is helping you to, you can see this is supposed to be lower than this point. So having a slight angle will actually mimic the hairline. So I'll go in, take this section. Again, we said we wanted it to be around the earlobe, so you can see I'm kind of, it's not a full mimic of the parting, but knowing how the hairline, I'm mimicking the hairline. I'm going to come in and I'm just doing a slight diagonal. And then I'm going to come in across here and cut this across the ear, pretty much straight across. And then depending on how much weight I want to, again, move back into the short haircut, I might even dip my fingers slightly back because again, the mimicking hairline, slightly down. So basically all I just did was not so much this, but mimicked the natural hairline. See if I have somebody that has had any hair loss, surgeries, stuff like that, I may even take more hair, and I could even take this whole panel down because of the density, depending on the thickness. But she does have at least enough that I feel like it's a nice perimeter to give me a guideline. So then from this point, remember I said now we're going to start taking diagonal backs because we want that round shape. So I'm going to come back in. And that, and now I have my perimeter. Now I need the second part of the perimeter, which is actually the front. So I'm going to over direct towards the face. So now what you want to think about is, where do I want my shortest point? Do I want it to be like at her cheek? Do I want this to be at, like, pointing towards her eye? Whatever point do I want those short hairs to be? I'm now going to create that moment, mimic down, and then of course, I have my length at the bottom here, so I know where I'm going to. So for myself, I'm just gonna make it simple. I'm gonna go towards kind of a little above the nose ridge, and I'm just going to pin it. And I know this is kind of awkward, but you would never stand here. You would just pull that towards yourself, okay? So I'm doing this, okay. So that way you have that. And now you can see how, there's my piece that was like right above her nose, and it matches to her length. There's a little piece of hair that I didn't cut, and I will cut, but that's because that was the internal piece. Just so we get it. There it is. And then I can bring this down and then get my guide. So just for the moment, I have now all I've done is just created a guide. Nothing more but that. Now we're going to go in and actually start doing true round graduation. So when we're doing the round now, we're going to take each diagonal to the level that you want to lift. So this one would make it, if you think about it, it's very like horizontal diagonal, so it would leave it very heavy. So you need to customize your angle now to fit what you want to build. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to go much more vertical diagonal. So my first one, there might not be a lot of hair. What we're going to do is now you're going to go from, we were in this position, now we're going to go into lifting it. And I know I'll have a little to cut off, say even from my guide, and then coming in and back, so. That allows you to have, you can already see the shape, how now it's going that direction. So then just remember, you're never, just a little bit of your previous guide. That's really important. Taking everything, and then you're just, so here's where you want to know. I know, again, I'm not very big into like degrees, but this would be 90 degrees. So you can see that I'm building graduation because it's below 90, but it's still kind of on the high side of it. So whatever that means, percentage-wise, it is the degrees, but. And this is where you can start to almost like slide into the back. So I'm starting to get into that back. So you comb your guide into your section. Always checking to see that you see your guide. And then you kind of see how I can kind of, almost I'm moving backwards as I'm walking and doing this haircut. Don't want to keep it on base. So we went this way, so to cross check it, you're gonna go this way. Not too much. A little dusty if you needed to, but that way I know I've got that shape going. And again, if I had it this close, you can take it as short as you want to, so don't, just know it's just the technique. Into the back. Now, this hairline is very thick. Traditionally, most of our clients don't have that thick of a hairline. Plus, they usually have like the W or different things. So know that what I'm about to do right now may look a little bit more wonky or a little thicker because of the density. But I just want to kind of keep that fluidity of the guide, which is more important right now for this portion. I'll tweak down here. What's important to also think about is that, and especially for me, I'm starting to push height a little too much. Like I'm between chin and chest. So you can see I'm just maxing out where I'm at. So be sure you're working it. Again, always be Be sure you see your guide before you cut. And you can see I don't drop it, I just glide into the next section. So like I said, I knew I was gonna get a little tail, so I'm just gonna bring this down low. Just bringing this down low. And then what I usually do on a real client is I take that up high, I take the other one down low, then I blend by just cross-checking. There it is. And see if anything needs to be cleaned up. Now, if you need it shorter, I would dry it before you cut it all the way short, because you get a lot of clients that want a little bit of softness. This one creates a really nice effect where it'll tuck in and allow you to have softness. If you, when it's dry, if you want to cut it off, you can always go scissor over comb and then get rid of it. So right now, it may be a little longer, but I would rather have the length to cut dry than not to have it. So now we're going to go into the other side. Now what I usually tell people is when you come across here, it'll look like more like X marks the spot. Otherwise, if it just hits it straight like here and if this one hits straight here, you will truly get a V. So when you're coming in, now obviously we're about to do the other side. What I just want to kind of note, is fingertips will be now pointing towards the back, towards the spine. That is an uncomfortable position. You do not want to put yourself into it. So you know you're in a bad body position if you're in this position. So what I always tell people is lower the stand or quote, lower your chair. So basically one side you're going to pump the client up, so she's higher, one side she's going to be lower. Because now that I've lowered her, so this would be like pumping the chair down, you can see my shoulder is now in a better position. It's not being extended. I'm not going to wear out my elbow as hard or my shoulder. You could walk into crossover too. So if I was cutting over, you just want to be sure that your shoulder, so yeah, anytime you're up, you go down.
Yeah.
So whenever this shoulder goes up, you just put the little client down. That's probably the best way to put the connection to it. So now we're in here, I'm coming into this direction, remembering the angle, and now I actually get to cut. And then I'm gonna do another one. So as I'm going into this, just wanna do two of them. You can see I immediately shuffle forward. So you're going to shuffle into your work. So as the other side I was walking backwards, this side I'm walking forward. And you're gonna do one or two sections. Check your client in the mirror to be sure you're building the same angle. It's really important to cross-check your work right away into the beginning. Otherwise you could do like half this head and then you'd be like, why am I lopsided? So right away after two sections, cross-check it. This side looks good, but I wanna do a quick cross-check on this side. Now I should be content. Yeah, okay. So now everything looks balanced and now I know that I'm moving into the correct direction of the other one. So again, don't forget, you're gonna keep taking this diagonal. Don't forget to cross over on the other side. As you go into here, again, the same way you did on the opposite side. So now you can kind of see where the shape is all coming back. I know mine's, like I said, the sides are a little bit longer, but this is very much in trend where I get people like want some hair like left, and then they are the tuckers, I call them. They're the traditional clients that like want to cover their ears, but they want to tuck stuff. So I do want to add in a couple simple things when I like texturize. Before I usually drop the top, and this is where we'll end up doing a little bit of layering just to kind of modernize it. But before, and even that, there's a little bit more graduation. So there's one more step of graduation and then a tiny bit of layering it. But before we do that, we're going to go in and we're going to texturize this a little bit. I like more of a blending shear where it's a finer tooth more than like a chunky thing. Because if you're going to have, especially gray hair clients, I have feeling a lot of, or you have that hair that like literally kind of grows more out of its head, like this mannequin, it needs to be softened so that it grows out nicely in the last like 5-6 weeks between the haircuts that they usually do. So one of the things I'll do is I'll come through the back, kind of like I'm doing scissor over comb, and literally just take the texturizing shear and just blend up and move. So texturizing scissor over comb is basically what I'm doing. And I just soften everything, and then I take it on the same angle that the cut was made. So I'm not changing the shape so much. But the back I did that because I didn't want to have that V point, so that's why I went square. And now I'm going on a diagonal. And then again, through the sides, coming through as it's just the tips. So you're really not changing the whole entire thing, but more the tips of it. And I usually like doing it kind of like it is now, like slightly dry, so I can see exactly what I'm doing. It's not sopping wet, that kind of thing. I might even dry it a little bit, just if it's really wet, before I do this. If I want this hair to be a little softer, I'll come in with my blades, thinking about the direction that you are wanting that hair to move. So if I want this to go back, then I'm going to take my blades kind of like they're literally, this blade right here is going to be against the scalp. You're not floating. It's like you're opening and closing, you're opening and closing, you're just sliding it very subtly through the head. So you're not, you can see I'm not taking a ton of hair, but I am against the scalp. So my blades are resting here, I'm opening and closing, opening and closing, opening and closing. And that's just going to give you just see a little bit of extra texture, and it'll also give it more movement. It takes out the bulk. If I want this to be towards the face, then I can slide this portion towards the face. And that way when you put this on top, you'll see what it's really going to do, especially when you have these a little bit more mature clients that are starting to have the thinning tops. Down here, they're going to have a lot more density traditionally, and then they're thinner through here. So I need to be sure this portion doesn't look bulky when I drop this on top, because visually I'm going to be confused. My eye's going to get kind of like, oh my God, I didn't take enough out, or oh, this is not going to blend correctly. So if I do a little bit of pre-work, and I'm not saying a ton, just like you saw, like very little, but enough to kind of make it where it's like, oh, it's laying nicer, it's looking pretty, and I do that top, that conscience of density here and thinner here will less odd to your eye, you know, and also to your client, because what's her biggest concern is that thin top, and if this looks really thick, she's just gonna only see thin top. If I have a client that has a strange colic, you know, and is pushing here, I might take my razor and against the skin and just remove any of that hair that's pushing that out. So I do some a little bit of hairline detail depending on what I need also. So this isn't like doing this underneath. So I'll razor and do some detailing, or just point cut or whatever you need to soften that. So again, you could slide in just like I did over here. You can do a little of that. Then when I take the top down, so what's really important is if she has a side part, go off the side. If she's like the client that kind of is like, I don't really know what I want, it might blow in the wind, whatever, then we're gonna do a center part. So then at the highest point of the head, divide the sides from the back. So now I have portion control where it's gonna lay and where it's gonna naturally fall on this client's head. 3 little sections. I have the front side, the other front side, and then this back side. So what I wanna do, first and foremost, hopefully you like where your weight line is. That's another thing. Be sure you've built the weight to be in the right spot. So for her, it's complementary. You can see the shape. The weight is up in here, but it's gonna rest here, right? Because if I layer this, it's gonna get shorter. So I need to be sure I leave enough weight right now. So what's important is to think about it that hair, obviously wet, is expanding. Dry, it's gonna shrink. So I need to see where the dry hair is hitting. So I see the weight is here. That means this piece of hair needs to go slightly below it. I don't want it to dry and be above the weight line that I've created. So it needs to be below it. I would rather it be a little too long than ever be too short. Again, kind of see where the guide is. My finger is gonna go slightly below that line. You can point cut this if you wish. I'm going straight across the back of her head. Slightly point cutting it to make it look softer. So you can see how that falls kind of right there. So I'm creating that horizontal transition as we talk in masculine cutting. So we're doing that technique. I'm going slightly below, and I'm coming up. So I'm following kind of that weight line up. Do the exact same thing. So again, traditionally, I like to do it with a little bit of a point cut. Again, I'm going to take that one panel, bringing this across. Now, again, depending on what you want, this is where you can actually use the guide from the back and leave it longer, or I can go up and connect it where this weight line is. So if I want more like a pixie, it's gonna go up. So I'm just gonna go more straight across. Also with the longer length, it'll just look better. If you wanna give it even like a longer front, like you didn't wanna put a bang in it, angle your fingers down. So like to me, the clients that don't want those curtain fringe, need a little dip. So I have that length so that it swoops. That's the length. So this length is here. Okay. So at the moment, yes, it's gonna have a little bit of a bowl feel. We have to create the bowl so that we can have length to cut off. Over here. Again, same thing. Use your mirror. It's really helpful so that you know where your length is here. Or, in my situation, it has no mirror. Take your section right here and create a little guide so that when I come over here, I know from here to here where I'm going to. Got obviously, when we did it, we should have one length here, we should have one on the other side. We're just basically taking the point. And you could go shorter if you want, obviously, to be spiky, but right now we're trying to leave it so that it, again, it has more of like almost like a pompadour effect, so that it's a lot shorter in the back, longer in the front. So that'll give me some of that weight that has to come off of here. So now you can see how that just already created a lift and softness across, and then that gave me the guides from what I did below here. So that should work. Sometimes if I want it shorter, I'll take a smaller section and I can even create like a concave angle in here. Just so if you ever have like, if you put one like it almost like a spike out, or like I call it the bedhead effect, you know, I'll go a little shorter into that like crown area. But I check it this way first and foremost almost every time, mostly because colics are an issue here. So that leaves me a little bit of ability to not go too short too fast. I can always go shorter. Again, I can't put the hair back on. So I usually just go right across. So from that point there, now we said she was more of a center part person. So I'm gonna go straight down her center. And I'm going to take a guide from the back. And basically I get to angle from the guide I put here to the guide I came here. And you can do it all horizontal, like this way across the head, but this going this way, it actually lays a little bit more horizontal. So you know those clients that again have like thinner hair, I'm gonna leave a little bit more density this way. So it kind of works out. And then I take everything that fell from one side, I over direct it to center. And anything that it didn't catch from that first time when I did it, again, over direct this to center. So I just keep always my fingertips pointing to the shortest guide from the back, basically, out to the length. And then I traditionally, then I can move this, and then I blow dry this a little bit, and then I can go in and I can do some detailing, or, as we were talking about before, if I had a client that wanted more of a curtain fringe portion, I can come in and then design and go in and do a create a curtain fringe. So that's also an option. So this would be my little curtain fringe that I create. So a lot of times I feel like I've been getting clients that like want a short look and they want this like baby curtain fringe. Do you see how that modernizes her? So, and I needed this corner here so that I could go from short to long here and short to long here, so that creates that kind of movement. And then again, I'm gonna come in and do my curtain fringe on this side. Make sure you get your guide. Ready? So,
Look
simple.
at our fringe like nobody else.
I love a curtain fringe. Like everybody gets a curtain fringe in my work, like right now. If you didn't, you need it anyways, because I just love the way that round shape finally looks.
Yeah.
But I would say, again, what we needed to do was, so really quick to explain this really quick in shape form, I went through the back. When I pulled it up layers, and now we are doing layers at this point, I layered it, it was square, right? So I kept corners. Then I switched from the back when I went through to the sides, and I did a triangular shape, so it went short to long. My fringe then turned around. So literally for these layers, they were all layered, but they were all in different shape forms. And that's the key difference with the modern cuts, is about the shapes, not so much about every layer is cut the same layered, concave, or it's round or whatever. But that's what's really important, is how the shapes are. So square, triangular, round. That's what I created.